If you're a fan of Lewis from Everything Smart Home, you probably already know about his Everything Presence sensor. It's a sensor he makes and charges about $40 for it, so you can use it with Home Assistant. And I have to admit, it's a pretty neat sensor. But what if you could make it yourself? I spent over a month tinkering, researching, and exploring different options to see if I can build my own presence sensor for under $25 and utilize the presence zones built into the LD2450 mmWave board that he uses. After months of work, it finally paid off. Just a brief introduction for those of you new to mmWave presence sensors. Here's a pretty basic but easy to grasp explanation. This is a motion sensor switch. It uses infrared to detect motion. This tech was invented in 1950 and was pretty much the baseline for smart homes in the 1980s. It's still widely used today but has one major drawback. It can't reach you if you're still. So this happens quite often if A, the sensor can't see you, or B, you're not moving. These sensors are also limited to tracking just one person. mmWave can also be traced back to the 1950s, but in the last decade, the technology has evolved with significant advancements in recent years. Not only is infrared light not needed, but the overall sensor can be significantly smaller than a traditional PIR sensor. Not only can it detect motion, but it can also detect a human's presence even if they're still. So this won't happen, as long as you're breathing, of course. You can track multiple targets, unlike the PIR sensor, which is limited to one target, and depending on the sensor you have, you can set up multiple zones. So this section in the kitchen will only turn on the kitchen light, while this section in the kitchen will only turn on the table light. And remember, this automation is all just from one sensor. It's pretty advanced stuff. So let's gather the parts we need. We need the ESP32 board, DuPont cables, a utility blade. We need our LD2450 boards, and then of course the housing for your sensor. I 3D printed this myself and I modified it. I found this on ThinkFirst and I modified it so the board and the sensor will fit. This is completely optional. You do whatever you want to do. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to set up everything on the ESP32 board and the LD2450. And setting up the board is fairly simple. So these right here, these connectors are your ESP32, and these connectors right here are the LD2450. So VIN on the ESP32 is going to plug into your 5-volt pin on your LD2450. The TX2 is going to connect to the RX, RX2 is going to connect to the TX, and ground is going to connect to ground. Pay attention to this right here, these two right here, because what I've noticed is that there are some tutorials where they tell you to put the TX2 to the TX pin on the LD2450. That is not going to work. So this is the DuPont cable pack that comes with males and females. We need the females and we need 4 cables. So I'm just going to go ahead here and take out 4 cables. Now what we want to do is on this side of the cable we want to take out these black connectors, because the LD2450, I think it's a micro or a mini DuPont cable connector. It's not full size like the ESP32 boards. Of course you don't have to do this if you get the mini DuPont cables. Now that I got the black sleeves removed, what I want to do is I want to connect this up. So the green, since that's universal for ground, I'm going to plug that in the ground connector. Gray, I've been using RX for gray, so I'm going to continue that trend. Purple cable, I've been using it for the 5-volt, so that's going to go into the 5-volt pin. And then the blue, I've been using that for TX, so that's going to go into the TX port right here. So the 2 pins that we need to pay attention to on the LD2450 board is the TX and the RX. So the gray, like I said, is going to be RX, so that's going to plug into the TX2 pin on the board. The blue is TX on the LD2450, so that's going to plug into the RX2. Blue is going to plug into the VIN, and in green is ground, which is right here. And we have our LD2450 wired up to our ESP32 board. The next step is to get a data cable that's plugged into your computer and plug it into the ESP32 board. On your computer, you're going to go to this website, web.esphome.io. You're going to hit on connect, select your ESP32 board, press on connect, click on install, choose file, and I'm going to use the mmWave-sensor-factory.bin. And you can find these files on my Patreon page. I'll put the link in the description below. Click on the file, the bin file, hit open, and then click on install. We're going to let it install the bin file on our ESP32 board. Now, one thing you do want to make sure is that if the ESP32 board is not a brand new board and you've put something on it before, you want to factory reset that board. There's a lot of tutorials on how to do that. Okay, so now that the configuration is installed, we click on close, click on these three dots right here, and then click on configure Wi-Fi, connect to Wi-Fi. I'm going to select my Wi-Fi network and type in the password. After the Wi-Fi is connected, we can go ahead and click on close. And then I'm going to go ahead and unplug the board. And then right over here, I have a standard micro USB cord that's just supplying power. I'm going to go ahead and plug this into the ESP32 board. Back on my computer, I'm going to go to Home Assistant, click on Device and Services. Make sure you already have the ESPHome. And up here, this 963750, this is the board we just flashed. Go ahead and click on configure. Do you want to add ESPHome node? Hit submit. Create a configuration for mmWave. Great. So we're going to just select our area. This is going to be in the garage. So on garage, hit finish. Then we're going to go into our ESP. Same one. Here we go. We're going to go into here, and then we're going to click on this edit setting, and I'm just going to type a name, fancy name for the sensor. I find that giving them one-word names is the easiest. Since this is going to be in a garage and I got a Mustang, I'll just call it Stang. Hit update, rename. Here is our ESP32 board that we just flashed. As you can see, we have the sensor data here, moving target and whatnot. You'll notice that everything says unknown. This is normal. It's happened to me a couple of times where I'm not concerned about it. So if you do see this, the solution is actually relatively simple. On your phone, you're going to download the HLK radar tool. Once you download it, go ahead and open it. It's going to search for a LD2450 board. There we go. So we got two. Click on the one that's closest. That's going to be this one. Go. So we're connected to this board right now. And what I want to do is I want to do restore factory. And hit restart. Hit confirm. And in Home Assistant, just refresh the page, see if that works for you. Okay, we're still getting unknown. Verify your connections. Make sure no cable came out. Right, everything's good there. Now, as you can tell, there's no exact science on getting this to work right out of the box or right after configuring it. And the reason why I know it's the board, the LD2450 board, is because it's not even picking up a presence. See, I pointed right at me and it's not seeing anything. It's supposed to show me as a person on here on the radar, and it's not. That's how I know that it's the LD2450 board. Oh, that's why. Whoops, I connected this wrong. So power is the purple and TX is blue. Okay, so purple goes into the VIN port. I completely fumbled that. Alright, let's see if it works now. Yes! So now we're finally getting an image here. As you can see, that person right there, that's telling us that the board is working. And sure enough, when we look into Home Assistant, our sensor is reporting data. Moving target, presence, still target, So let's go ahead and unplug this and start to build our sensor. Glue gun is your best friend. I can go ahead and unplug this board right here. Here's my housing. So this cutout right here, that's for the plug right here on the ESP32 board. So it's gonna go like that. That way I can plug in the board. So actually the first thing I'm gonna do is glue down these pins. So I'm gonna just put dabs right there. Keep that pins held in place. On this side of the board, I'm just gonna put a tiny dab of glue, and this is just to hold it in place so when I plug the cable in, it doesn't go moving around inside the housing. Hold it in place so it hardens. I'm gonna dab some more glue in the inside of the housing right here, and that's going to hold our pipe in place. Feed the sensor through there. So now I'm gonna take my LD2450 board and position it the way I want it. So I like this part to be in the back. So the LD2450 board is going to face forward like that. Can you see that? Here's the LD2450, the wire, and the ESP32 was underneath. So after we done configure it and set it up in our housing, we can go ahead and we can plug it in like this. Home Assistant, and just pray that it comes online. Bam! There you go. I love when it comes alive. So now we can go ahead, we can put this sensor where we want to, and then create our custom automations. All right, so I got my sensor right here. We're entering the garage. Please excuse the mess. We had a party last weekend, or was it 2 weekends ago? I don't know, lost track. Here's the sensor. So now my job is to find the perfect spot for this sensor, because believe it or not, there is a perfect spot to place these sensors. You can't just willy-nilly put them wherever you want and expect to get great results. That's not how these sensors work, unfortunately. You have to pick an ideal spot, because if you take the sensor and you face it towards a very thin wall, the waves will go through that wall and will be able to detect motion on the other side of the wall. I'm not going to have that problem here because these walls right here, this side and this side, is an exterior wall and it's cinder block. The only wall I got to worry about is this one right here, because this leads inside the house. But this, I could put this against here facing this way, but however I want it to detect me when I walk into the garage. So I'm thinking maybe on this side of the wall right here. This is where I had the original presence sensor, the Bluetooth one that I created, and I think this spot should be pretty good. It's facing there, should be able to pick me up. Board's positioned properly. So let's go ahead and unplug this guy. Okay, so I got the board plugged in right here, sitting on the table, and it's facing this direction right here. So now let's jump back to the computer and configure our automation. This is the sensor. It's back online after plugging it in. And if you go to automation, we're just going to click on this plus sign right here, and we're going to select stang moving target, started detecting motion. Condition, since the garage gets 0 light through the entire day, we don't need to create a condition. However, let's say you did get sunlight during the day and you just want the lights to turn on at night. That's where you would set up a condition. We're going to do add action, click on light, turn on, choose entity, and we're going to type garage. There we go, garage light, and save. And we're going to do, whoops, garage light on. Click on save. Click on the 3 dots. I'm going to do duplicate. And now I'm going to change this to presence not detected. So stang presence become not occupied. And we're going to set that for 2 minutes.
And then we're going to change the on to off, and then click save, type a new name, garage light off, click save, and there you go. Now that we have our first automation set up, we're going to go test it out by walking in the garage and make sure that it works like it should. In the event it doesn't, I have my phone so I can make any adjustment necessary on my phone, and I'll need to come back to my computer. So let's go to the garage. Fingers crossed. Walking in the garage now. Oh, it works. Oh yeah. So the garage light was triggered, it came on. If you saw a little bit of light, that is the garage door opener, not the garage light. See this, the garage door opener? Light is stupid, it's always on. I don't know what the heck is going on. I have a rat GDO attached to it. And yeah, the thing just always keeps the garage light on, no matter what I say, no matter what I do, no matter what automation I create. It's always on. Whatever. The garage light is on. And it should not come off until it detects zero presence in the garage. So unless these sensors can pick up a ghost, you know, as long as there's no living human inside the garage, it should shut off. Okay, so remember the sensor is over there, and I'm going to step out of the garage and we'll see what happens. Everything is working like it should. Of course, like I said, there's no specific science to this madness. You know, it's kind of like trial and error. You tinker, 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 play. Yeah, this is not going to be the end of it. I am going to be making small incremental changes to the automation within Home Assistant just to fine tune it and tweak it to get it to work better, you know. Make sure everything is working, the presence detection is working. So this is going to be a never-ending battle, but it's going to be a fun never-ending battle, right? Because, you know, I built this sensor myself. Let's talk zones. So you get up to 3 zones with the LD2450 board, and to set up is real simple. You need your phone. You want to connect to your LD2450 board. As you can see, there I am. That is represented by the little human figure. So I can go around and I can just test the boundaries of this sensor. So as you can see, right by the front door, it's a dead spot. Let's see how long before it detects me. There we go. So it found me, right? But anyway, let's say this part right here, I don't have a light in this area right here. But let's say for my toolbox right here, I had a light. All I would have to do is come right here, stand by the toolbox, and I'm looking in the app. Let it update a little bit. So you see right there where that figure is? After seeing that it's pretty solid, staying there, I can click on set, and then I'm going to do area detection, and then area 1, turn on. And this box, I'm going to drag it and put it right where I was, rough location that I was. And then I can click on submit, hit confirm. Now if I go back, and I did it correctly, I should be in the box, the zone I just created. And I am. You can see that right there. I am indeed in the box I just created. So that's how you set up a zone. And so now every time I walk into that box, which is in front of my toolbox, if I had a light here, I could get it to come on only when I'm in this zone. But when I'm outside the zone, the light will shut off. And the cool part about using the app is that the zone that you set up is saved directly onto that chip, and it's imported into Home Assistant automatically. So all you have to do is go into Create Automation and then select your zone that you just created and have that trigger whatever you want it to trigger. No plotty table needed, none of that mumbo jumbo. really simple, cut and dry. If you want to get technical and you want a plot graph or whatever, then you can do that. I'm not going to show you how to do that because for me it's unnecessary. I don't need it, don't want it. This is already pretty difficult. It doesn't need to be even more difficult by learning to create a plotty graph, you know? If I can get it to work without that graph, then I'm going to do it. If you want to learn to create a plotty graph for it, then there's a lot of YouTube videos to show you how to do that. Okay, so before I go, there are some things that I want to run by you guys and let you know, just to give you like a heads up. These are things that I learned along the way. So number one, if you're going to print a housing for your sensor, make sure you don't use a resin print. This is the first prototype. This one was slightly modified. This one is heavily modified. But one thing I learned from this prototype is that number one, resin seems to be blocking the mmWave from communicating with the board. So when I had the sensor in here, it was unable to detect motion and presence as accurately as it was able to in this PLA print. Number two, if you get the HLK radar app to work and it wants to update the mmWave board, don't do it. I had a lot of issues once I updated it. The app started crashing. I was unable to backtrack the version. Depending on where you get it from, it should come already pre-flashed with the latest firmware. Number three, don't use still target in Home Assistant to set up light automation. I found still target to be extremely unreliable in terms of picking up a presence not detected or presence detected. Still target, it's cool, it's on there, you can see it, but don't use it for any home automation. Otherwise your lights are going to be constantly flickering on and off, on and off. Number four, I said it before, hot glue gun is your best friend. It's so much better to leave plenty of space for the board and then to just glue it to keep it firmly in place rather than make this small, just a tad bit bigger than the ESP32 board so it fits nice and snug in there. I mean, you can do it too if you're really good with measurements. Number five, remember, TX on the LD2450 board is going to plug into the RX pin on the ESP32 board and vice versa. And if your sensor is unresponsive, meaning you get that unknown message like I did earlier, chances are you reverse the TX and the RX. Number six, if you put the sensor on the shelf, don't put it more than 5 feet off the ground. I found that when it was higher than 5 feet off the ground, I was getting a lot of false readings, a lot of false presence detection. I don't know why. I can't figure out why. It could be some interference, but I found that when I put it at, I guess, waist level of a human, I got better readings. If you want the best, absolute best reading, then you can't beat a bird's eye view putting these sensors onto your ceilings. Now, if you download a nice case and your board fits, but have to bend the pins on the ESP32 slightly just so the case closes or something, do not do it. Don't do it. It is going to be a disaster. I did it with this one right here because I didn't have enough space on the top. So when I put this, the pins were interfering with it. So what I did was I bent the pins so this can fit on nicely on the top. And it was an absolute disaster. It was not working. I tried troubleshooting it for hours on end, could not figure it out until I eventually wised up and decided to unbend the pin. Magically made it start working again. So don't bend the pins. Anyway, that does it for this video. Hope you found it helpful. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, share. If you did find it helpful, thumbs down work also. My name is Z, Salawake Muchacho, and I'll be looking for you in the next one. Peace.